All right, the Supreme Court set to hear a case challenging an exemption to the double jeopardy rule that prevents defendants from being charged in both state and federal courts. Now, that ruling may impact whether or not a pardon from President Trump could keep his former campaign chairman Paul Manafort out of jail.
It's very sad what's happened to Paul, the way he's being treated. I said, no, I have not offered any pardons. And I think they asked, or whatever, would you? I said, I'm not taking anything off the table.
Joining me now with expert insight on this is former U.S. Attorney Kendall Coffey. Thank you, sir, for coming on this morning. I got to learn a lot about the legal system.
Thanks for inviting me.
And getting ready for this case. The Fifth Amendment prevents you from being charged with double jeopardy or being charged twice for the same crime. But the Supreme Court versus Lanza case changed that so that if it's a federal crime and a local crime, you can be charged with both. And now they're trying to, I guess, fight that. Tell us a little bit about how this happened.
Well, many years ago in Fox versus Ohio, obviously not this Fox, but a case in 1847, it was decided that there would be an ability of having successive prosecutions because of two different sovereigns. So you could take somebody all the way through the federal criminal prosecution system and then win, lose, or draw with the feds, go through the whole thing again in the state system. And that's something that's been troubling to a lot of people for a long time. In fact, two justices that don't agree on everything, Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Clarence Thomas, both joined in an opinion a couple of years ago saying, we need to take another look at this doctrine. It's not fair, and it allows the federal government to federalize all kinds of street crimes and create something that our founders never envisioned. How does that apply in the present context? It's going to be very interesting to see.
Okay. Bring that in on the Bob Mueller investigation here for a second, because a lot of the thinking is that if the president were to pardon Paul Manafort for his crimes, he could still be charged for the same crimes in a local court.
And in theory, if the president's pardon power while it can extinguish everything in the federal system, he doesn't have the power to pardon state crimes. But in the case of Manafort, if the Supreme Court were to change the current law and say that, listen, prosecutors, get together on this. You only get one chance to prosecute somebody for basically the same kind of crimes. A decision like that could help Manafort to some extent. For example, he was convicted of 8 crimes in the Virginia court. He pled guilty to others. If he is pardoned for those crimes, he's obviously off the federal hook. But to the extent that those crimes constitute state crimes, he would also be out of the woods on essentially the same kind of state crimes that he was pardoned for.
Yeah. All right. So you've got the Supreme Court's going to hear this thing. You've got Bader Ginsburg and Thomas agree on something, which is odd enough as it is. What do you think the chances are that the challenge to this exemption gets through?
Well, I think it's the best time in many years for this kind of challenge to have a hope of succeeding. There's a lot of thought that the federal criminalization has gone too far. And in fact, a very well-regarded senator, Orrin Hatch, wrote a very impressive brief saying this has gotten way out of whack with the kind of system we're supposed to have in this country. And as Ginsburg wrote, it is one United States of America. Why should they be taking different ordeals, put somebody through it twice? Try to put the resources, coordinate them the first time. Get the states and the feds to talk to each other, decide what's best for the trial, because one trial is nightmare enough. If you tell somebody they're going to go through it a second time, what are most people going to do? They're going to cop a plea.
This is a very interesting case, sir, and we all learned a lot. Thank you very much for your time this morning. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.